Hey guys, and welcome back to this next session from the Lumix Lounge here in Nashville, Tennessee. I'm sitting on the stage here with Ann Monteith. We're going to talk about a couple things. We're going to talk about the business of photography. We're going to talk about the PP of A, you know, in your history running the organization. And we're going to dive into her favorite camera, which I will reveal when we get to that part of the conversation. Right? So Ann, welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, let's dive into it. So you're a photographer, right?
I am.
How long have you been shooting? What do you like to shoot? Like, how did you get into this crazy business?
Kind of since the dark ages. I got involved during the film era, and I started, like many people, as a hobbyist, and my husband was a hobbyist in graduate school, and we decided one day to quit our very, very well-paying jobs and become professional photographers, because after all, we had nice cameras, and I'd won a Kodak snapshot contest, and so I figured that qualified me.
You're like, that's it.
So,
I'm in.
And this was in the late 70s. And by the time I spent all the money I needed to spend in order to really be a professional back in those days, took a lot of equipment, a lot more money than it does today. And I found myself in way over my head, up to in debt, and I decided I better find out how to do this thing as a business. I was an English major, you know, so what am I doing here? And so I was very, very lucky to get involved in PPA, and I found the only person that was teaching a financial management class in the entire industry. And so before I got into even more trouble, I was able to learn what this is about as a business.
So PPA, so talk about your involvement there. So you used to run the organization.
Oh, no, I never ran the organization.
What was your involvement?
I was president of the Professional Photographers of America.
It's
a very different thing, because we have a CEO, and they are a professional staff. We have a large professional staff in Atlanta, but we have a board of directors, and the president is chosen from the board of directors. So we have a wonderful volunteer structure. And that's how we really know what's going on in the industry, because we're really working for professional photographers. But I got into it through the education arm. I had been serving as chairman of the board of the Winona International School of Professional Photography, which was owned by PPA. And so during my stewardship of that organization, they decided that maybe I ought to come on board as a board member. And so it was a wonderful opportunity to serve with very talented people.
And now you sort of shifted gears, and you're training folks, you know, and helping photographers understand the business side of photography, which is, you know, as you know, it's kind of a huge void in the photography industry, where there's lots of talented, creative people that they know their way around every little piece of gear, but when it comes to business and asking to get paid and then managing all that, they fall short. So how do you manage that, and how do you train folks?
Well, what you said is sadly very true. I mean, most people don't get involved in this industry because they want to create systems, because they want to know where money comes in and money goes out, and because they want to sell. And same with me.
You're scaring me already.
I figured, man, give me a camera room. I'm going to go in this little dark place, and it's going to be really creative. I'm going to have a fun time. And then about 2 years later, with a pile of debt, I woke up and said, oh my God, I'm in retail sales. I'm dealing with consumers. How did this happen? So I had to learn from the School of Hard Knocks, and fortunately for some people that helped me a lot. But I teach generally through Professional Photographers of America, or through classes that I have set up myself. And I have some wonderful vendors, and I'm very happy to say Panasonic Lumix is one of them that is helping me with some of the promotional materials I'm putting together, and getting people to come to my classes. And I travel around. I do usually about 6 to 10 classes a year around the country. And the most popular of which is a 2-day class.
And these are in-person classes.
They are absolutely in person, and I have a strong feeling about that, because as wonderful as the internet is, and as wonderful as some of the videos you see on the internet are, there's also a lot of forums where people ask each other questions, and they really don't have someone there with a knowledge base about what really works in the business. And so my thought is that if a person isn't willing to come and sit a couple days and really learn what this is about and test their own ideas, but what about this? I'm nothing if I'm not honest. And I will tell you if you're going down a road that isn't going to work. But I need you in front of me. And it takes that to be in business. You've got to be flexible enough to be a little uncomfortable from time to time.
And that's how you grow, is by being uncomfortable.
It is.
Has it been your experience that, you know, there's that whole cliche of the starving artist and artists not being able to ask for the worth, you know, or to ask to get paid. Have you seen that?
Absolutely, and I constantly tell people, you're not your client.
Yeah.
Your client may value your work more than you do. And I do see that the photographers tend to devalue, and I remind them, look, you know, you're getting everything wholesale here.
Yeah.
So these other folks are paying for your time and your talent and your expertise and your ability to be there 5 years from now when they need you to do another job.
Yeah.
So getting to the point of stability requires that you ask for the sale. It requires that you have confidence. And I think this whole digital transition has really knocked the confidence of a lot of photographers. I see the folks that have been in business and been very solid for years losing their confidence because they're seeing so many new people flood through the doors, and yet at the same time I see the new people saying, oh, I just wish I could get beyond where I am now. I don't know what to do next. So we're almost having to reinvent our industry right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like that's happening over and over and over again.
It is.
Like the reinvention, you said you started shooting in the film day. So from film, if you start from there, film to digital, and there was that leap and all that controversy.
Yep.
And then when people finally accepted digital, it was RAW versus JPEG, right? So, and then all the controversy that went with that, and now it seems like we're in this whole mirrorless versus DSLR kind of era. Where do you fall in on that? Is it just the logical transition, you know, to where we are now?
I'm not sure my transition was quite logical because I was shooting with a 6x7 medium format camera.
Oh,
I trained on that and when I started, I had a twin lens reflex camera that any idiot could use. They told me, you know, line up the two little things that go like this and take this thing on the side and don't let it go over 60 or below 60.
And when they go like that, it's good.
Below 60, don't ever, and hold it still. And that was what made me a photographer.
Oh, yeah?
But then I became a professional and I took a lot of training, and I mean a lot of training, before I could make that film come out of that 6x7 camera consistently. So that I was, you know, I get 10 images and you were finished, because you had a governor on you. Every time you shot something, it was $1 that you were putting in somebody else's piggy bank.
That's
you know?
right.
So it took me a while to really develop the sense that I was truly a professional photographer. And I was thrilled to earn my master's degree through PPA and, you know, a lot of print merits and all that stuff.
Love it.
That helped me prove to myself that I knew what I was doing. And then the digital transition came along, and suddenly I recognized that I'm going to have to make this transition, and I'm going to have to use a DSLR. Now, to me, a DSLR was, a film camera, a 35 millimeter, to me, was what amateurs used.
Right.
And so now they're handing me
a small little piece of film. You know, how can that compete with a 6x7?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize it until of late that I never really bonded with that 35 millimeter camera, digital or otherwise. The main thing was when I was in the camera room where I do 90% of my work, I would look across. I'd have I would have my 6x7 on a tripod. I'd have it set up. I'd make sure everybody was in the frame, and then I'd say, Frederick, turn your head this way, a little this way, look like, well, really nice, bang.
Yeah.
And I've got but I was constantly connecting with the subject. Yeah. Now all of a sudden, I'm presented with this camera that goes up to my face, and it's like, hi, I'm your photographer.
Right.
I can't see what you're doing.
Peekaboo.
Peekaboo. And so I think I'll just shoot this thing a lot. So, and I'm seeing the results of that with my students who are shooting, instead of shooting 20 images, which was like my maximum in a camera room shoot.
Right.
They're now shooting 300 and 400.
Right.
Well, if you can't see what you're doing, maybe that's the reason.
Yeah.
And so along comes Panasonic Lumix in my life. Why? Because I've been doing this for so long, I have to keep up with what's new. So I started asking students about 2 years ago, what do you guys know about mirrorless cameras? And they didn't know very much. So I started reading about it, and I'm thinking, sounds very interesting. But I didn't have any practical experience until this time last year at Imaging, and I actually got my hands on some. And then I spent time shooting another guy's because he wanted me to photograph him doing stuff, so I did that. And I'm going, this is real interesting. And then when I had my hands on one for about a week, it took me that long to order it and sell my other stuff.
What was it that interested you about mirrorless? Was it the being able to see the exposure before you click the shutter?
Well, number one, in the camera, no, not so much at all. But in the camera room, just being able to have this flyout menu, so when I'm sitting here situated, once I have the person in the frame, I can sit there and say, okay, I'm looking at them. I'm back to exactly where I was with my 6x7s. I'm back to feeling like a photographer.
Right.
You know, and feeling like I'm in control for the first time in a long time. Right. So that was number one. But then I started traveling with the darn thing, and that's when I got this one.
Yeah, and you started traveling and got so what was it about these that helped with traveling? The long lens, or
well, when you look at the FZ1000, that thing has just, first of all, I'm not getting any younger. You know, it's this joint of my thumb is really it's tough on it because I go to Ireland for 3 weeks every year just for myself to clear out the attic. And I shoot for sun up to sundown, and I've gotten very interested in doing landscapes and panos that I do on a pano head. You know, but by the time I come back, this joint is just in terrible shape. Plus, I'm having trouble with, I'm going through cameras because of the mist and everything in Ireland, and so not really happy with what I'm getting. Thinking I'm seeing something that when I see it in the 35, wasn't happy with.
And then you get home and you zoom in, you're like, oh.
And then this thing is so light that I work with one hand with it half the time. And so I'm doing stuff I've never been able to do in my life. This last trip, I was hanging out of a bus with one hand on the bus thing, shooting at 1,000th of a second, watching sheep being herded over a hill.
You weren't driving the bus, right?
No, I was not driving the bus. You know, I'm clever, but not that clever.
Like, I'm good. I'm not that
good. No, absolutely not. No, but they're the tools that it has in it that lets me do things, just little things, like the level. I mean, I tend to tilt all the time. I don't anymore. And I just, the very few images that I spoil with this camera, it means a ton to me. And to be able to go from 25 millimeters to 400 millimeters and go to 800 if you put it on, on opticals, I mean, if you put it on digital zoom, plus, you know, I love the little fun things on it. Yeah, I'm a professional, but it's okay for us to have fun. I love the pano, the auto pano. It's a good thing for establishing where you are because you can get a good overall picture of it. And just all the little things that go together that I've been telling friends of mine, look, for the first time in many, many years, I've recaptured that whole fun that I had when I first started, when I was that amateur entering the snapshot contest. But guess what? I'm still hanging prints in PPA's loan collection.
And that's what I want to ask you about.
The quality is remarkable.
So on the quality side, and you know, from the standpoint of compromises, coming from where you came from with 6x7s, you know, which is medium format, bouncing off of the the SLR and into and the DSLR and into these guys. Have you made any compromises in your work, or has your work gotten better?
So my work has become so much better, and I'll tell you why. Because this actually happened recently. I was standing by a bridge trying to decide which lens to pick. And I thought, I need a wide lens here. But then I looked over there, and there was something really funny going on with a sheep or a goat or something, I can't remember. Needed the long lens. And then I have the lens that I like the best, and I tried, no, it's not going to work. This is going to work. And my husband handed me this camera. And I was able to do everything. I didn't miss anything. And that's the big thing for me when I'm not on a specific job, when I'm just out trying to take advantage of a nice walk in the day and exploit anything that I need to see, I can do it with this camera. And I keep one now in my glove compartment of my car because it's so easy to carry that it's,
So I'm going to wrap it up, but I want to get your thoughts on where things are going, in your opinion. So from two trajectories, from the standpoint of what's missing right now? You know, from you evolved from, like I said, the 6x7 shooter all the way up to the FC1000 now. Your work has gotten better. Now that you've tasted what these guys can do, what do you feel like, if anything, is missing that you're like, oh, this would be perfect if it would just do this? Are there anything?
Well, you know, I could quibble about any camera. Everyone wants to do things the way they want to do the workflow.
Yeah.
I have to, you know, really give a shout out for this, the way in which you can individualize them and personalize them to shoot your shooting style.
Yeah.
That means a tremendous amount to me. And I've written a paper on how I have set up my cameras so that it suits my shooting style for different types of photography. So, I think that's going to continue to evolve. I think right now when you have a camera, mirrorless cameras that have as many lens choices as the Lumix cameras have, I think that's covered. I can't ask for anything more. Maybe somebody who's in a more specialized area might be able to.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at something like this that can do so much for you when you're not even on a specific assignment, no, I can't. I think it's going to continue to develop. I think we're probably going to get slightly wider lenses.
Yeah.
I bet. I would bet that we're going to see the sensors continue to improve. And this has a 1-inch sensor in it, and I have absolutely no problem with that sensor.
Yeah.
What I can get today with at 5.6, I would have to shoot f11 with my 35 millimeter cameras.
Yeah.
And the fact that that's going to save me a little bit in the grain area, I appreciate that. So I have gotten into the little tech manuals and been reading all this stuff, and I think the direction is only going to get better and better. And I've just now seen the camera with a phone in it, and I think, you know, I do think fixed lens cameras are probably, and phones are going to continue to develop down the road.
Isn't it crazy?
But there will always be needs for interchangeable lenses. But the reason I'm so excited about what Panasonic, Lumix particularly, is doing is that they're covering all the grounds. They're the innovators now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm watching an awful lot of camera companies get old real fast.
Right.
And I like what I see happening here. And I'm always looking to the future because I'm not going to retire. I'm going to continue doing this until I fall over.
Yeah, yeah, that's the goal. So, okay, if you could leave the folks that are shooting now and watching this with a piece of advice, let's take it from the business standpoint. You know, because you train, and I want to hear about the URL and, you know, where people can go to sign up for that. But if you could leave one nugget of advice on the photographer that is already competent at the artisanship of photography, but falling short on the business side, what should they do?
Get to a basic business class, because every class I teach, people end up saying, why didn't I do this years ago? And I'm teaching the class that I wish I could have had when I got started. Yeah. And because you just waste your time. And you're not going to find online what you need in a real life class. And I wish there were more of them. I wish photographers would understand this, but I have to say I just had a class with close to 60 people in it, most of whom were not in the business yet.
Wow.
And they were coming for that reason. So I think we may be starting to get people who are realizing and changing careers and things that business is becoming more important. And so I'd say for anybody who doesn't know business, you're going to be competing with people who do. Yeah. And the difference between successful people and the ones who aren't almost always is the business component and not the shooting.
Right. Yeah. Really. Yeah, it's not the field of dreams, right? If you shoot it, they will come. It's not.
No, not at all. Yeah. Not at all. And there's never been more competition than there is now. Yeah. But
love it. So what's the URL where people can go to maybe sign up for yours?
They can go to Ann's Workshop, ANNS workshop.com.
Easy.
And you can see the current workshops that we have. And there are others that will be coming up. I also teach through PPA. I'll be doing a class for them in June, I believe. But if you look at their studio management services page, you can find information there. Or you can email me at ann@annmonteith.com.
Excellent. Ann, thank you so much.
Very good.
It's a pleasure chatting with you.
It's very good. Thank you so much.
We could talk for hours, I'm sure.
All right. Thank you.
All right, guys, that's it for this session of the Lumix Lounge. You can check out this video and all of our other ones over at lumixlounge.com. I'm Frederick Van Johnson. We'll see you in the next session.